Today is December 29th, 2022. Let me start by saying I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Today is December 29th. We'll be talking about what used to be stock symbol MMTLP, what has become the new private company, NextBridge Hydrocarbons. And we'll be looking at we'll be talking about some recent activities, some recent events, and a lot of this you can find on the Twitter Spaces. Check out, under Twitter, just look up hashtag FINRA fraud, or look up $MMTLP. If you do a search for $MMTLP, you should see most of what I'm talking about here. If you do not know what stock symbol MMTLP is, and you do not know what FINRA fraud is, I will not be going over that information for you. Instead, I will refer you to two videos. Hashtag the MMTLP FINRA fraud fiasco continues on Monday. It's about a 23-minute video, tells you exactly what happened. There was a whole bunch of possible corruption. What's massive corruption, at the very least. We've got a sordid story with naked short sellers combined with conflicts of interest with the, board members of FINRA, some guy named Ari, who knows, all sorts of weird stuff going on. Shares that were, naked short sold, that were greater than the number of shares which may even exist. Who knows? Anyway, you can check it all out in the video MMTLP FINRA fraud fiasco continues Monday. For some info on what stock symbol MMT is actually about in terms of fundamentals, you can check out MMTLP. The story is coming to a close. That was done a while back, and it talks about 3.2 billion barrels of oil that was discovered and found in West Texas near El Paso. A lot of natural gas, pipelines, what all that stuff is worth. And it talks about the story. So check it out. That's about a 30-minute video or so. So, I won't be going over the details of any of that stuff. I will tell you that it is a very fascinating story, and I encourage you to check it out. In the meanwhile, with current events, let's get back to current events. Rosa Twill, she has some legal proceedings going on in federal court in Florida. So she has filed with a federal court judge to turn back time, and I wish her success, because if she is successful, we are successful as longs, and we will have our last days of trading. And furthermore, there's a chat there's a Twitter Spaces that's coming up tomorrow that should be very interesting. It's got John Brda in it, and they're going to talk about what's going on with stock symbol MMTLP. Okay. In the meantime, let me give you a timeline of what's happened. Actually, let me go here. Instead, let me give you a quick recap of the situation. Okay. Actually, let me go back here. Okay, let me give you a timeline. So, all of the information about MMTLP or stock symbol MMTLP was very well known. There was an S1 for NextBridge Hydrocarbons that was first filed sometime around July 15th of 2022. This information was passed to the SEC about this company, this spin-out this spin-out becoming a private company. And as you know, you cannot short a private company, so shorts had a lot of warning to get out of this position. And so the S1 was filed July 15th, 2022. And the SEC asked for a lot of revisions. They went back and forth several months, until all the information that was possible to be disclosed, needed to be disclosed for shareholders of MMTLP was disclosed. By November 18th, the S1 became effective. Okay, that means the SEC says, hey, the S1 looks good. And on the 23rd of November, the day before Thanksgiving, the final dates for when everything would happen in the S1 got filled in using a Form 424B in terms of a press release on the 23rd, and it was actually filed with the SEC Edgar system on the 25th, the day after Thanksgiving. Basically, what that said was that the date of record would be the 12th of December. If you were a shareholder with with settled shares on that date, you would receive NextBridge Hydrocarbons, which is a privately held company, on the 14th of December 2022. There were 165 million shares, and so that's all the shares that would be distributed out. Somewhere along the way, shorts had a long time to close their short positions. You can't be short a private company, and they decided, screw it. They're going to go bankrupt anyway. Might as well short out the wazoo. So they kept shorting like crazy. And on the 8th of December, the last day of trading where you could actually buy shares of where you could actually buy shares of MMTLP and receive shares of the private company NextBridge Hydrocarbons, which would be settled on the 12th to be distributed to, for distribution on the 14th. What happened was shorts shorted to the tune of 13 points, to the volume of 13.7 million shares. 9.7 million of those shares was pure short volume, where shorts were shorting like crazy. They were selling shares that didn't exist. This was pure naked shorting. And what happened? They knew they couldn't close their position. On midnight of, between December 8th and December 9th, on midnight, FINRA calls the U3 halt. What? FINRA calls a U3 halt. And they say, we're going to halt trading because there could be settlement problems. Well, why would you halt trading if there are settlement problems? All of this information was disclosed months and months and months ago. Suddenly, you have an unexpected settlement issue. U3 is for unexpected settlement problems. Unexpected. How is anything unexpected if it was disclosed a long, long time ago? July 15th. How is this unexpected? I don't know. I suspect, as do many people, that the short position was impossible to close. That the shorts knew that they could not close. And people were directly registering their shares, and there was a rumor that all the shares were directly registered, right? And so FINRA calls U3 halt, says, we don't know what's going on, we've got to freeze halt. Okay. Basically, what they could have done is on the 9th, they could have said, hey, you could go to position close only, which means if you were along, you could close your position by selling your shares. If you were short, you could close your position by buying shares. And that would have caused reconciliation. The shorts could have closed out their positions on the 9th and the 12th, which were trading days. That did not happen because FINRA called a U3 halt. There is now a federal court case that's taking place in Florida to reverse that FINRA halt and to bring some light into the subject matter, to pull back time and to possibly undo that situation. Okay, so a recap: shareholders of MMTLP are owed NextBridge Hydrocarbons shares. All of us are. NextBridge Hydrocarbons is a privately owned company. Shares are non-tradable. 1-for-1, every single share of MMTLP should result in 1 share of NextBridge Hydrocarbons. There are 165 million shares that were issued by the company being Metamaterials, and those shares are now of the company NextBridge Hydrocarbons, and they've been spun out. Short sellers have sold MMTLP shares short. Now, we know this includes naked short sellers and market makers. Market makers have the right to naked short according to the SEC. We know that there have been large consistent failures to deliver nearly every single day for stock symbol MMTLP. And to me, that indicates that there's a possible large unreported short position. Okay. Now, FINRA declares his U3 halt on December 9th at midnight. And there were rumors that AST, the transfer agent, has filled all the allocations for NextBridge Hydrocarbons prior to that midnight, right? And that's why FINRA called the halt, because the DTCC attempted to figure out how many shares they needed to allocate, and FINRA said, "Oh no, the bus is full. Everyone's directly registered their shares. Brokers don't have any more shares that you can register here. They've all been directly registered." And at that point, the DTCC is confused, and they tell FINRA, and FINRA panics, and they do a U3 halt for unexpected settlement problems. Okay, the date is now. Why? Again, this is recent history. I'm just recapping for you. But why do I care right now? Because the date of the distribution was the 14th. 2 weeks from the 14th is the 28th, and that's when the distribution should be complete according to the S1 filings. Okay. The distribution should be complete. Today is the 29th of December 2022, the day after the distribution is complete. What I know is that brokers need to obtain those NextBridge Hydrocarbon shares to deliver to long shareholders of MMTLP. And whether they get those shares from NextBridge Hydrocarbons, whether they get those shares from AST, they need to get those shares. If the shares aren't available from AST, maybe the brokers have to go to NextBridge Hydrocarbons to request them to sell them some additional shares. I don't know. In the event that they cannot get those shares, the brokers need to make a deal to buy back their obligation to deliver those shares. And the obligation is to long shareholders of MMTLP. That's people like you and me. People like you and me. So they need to do one or the other. Okay. So far, we don't believe that they've done this yet. But we'll see. There are some developments that happened today that I will be going over, which may be interesting. Anyway, this is a video made by Roller Pigeons. Check out her video. It's very, very interesting. It's got about 10,000 views already at the time that I made the screen capture. Brokerages are pointing fingers at the transfer agent. Transfer agent is saying it's a brokerage. Roller Pigeons called the DTCC, and she was told what to tell the brokerage. She says that you should tell the brokerage, you should tell your broker, open up a case with the DTCC on your behalf to find out when the allocation of NextBridge shares will be made. You will require the case number and daily updates until the case has been resolved. And your broker must do this because they are your broker. Okay. Only they have direct access to the DTCC. You do not have access to the DTCC. We are beneficial shareholders, with the broker being the actual shareholder. We are beneficial shareholders. Okay. And that's what the DTCC actually said to do, right? You know, if you're a beneficial shareholder, ask your broker to open up a case. Okay, get the case number. Seems very reasonable, right? So today, that was a video she made last night. A very good video. I recommend you check it out. Today, over at Schwab, we know the Meta Sport channel. He spoke to 5 different people over the course of 4 hours, from frontline brokers to supervisors to transfer specialists. Nobody wants to open up a case. Nobody's willing to help the customer, right? This is, to say the least, very unsettling, he says. And he hashtags the SEC Gov and FINRA, because this all seems like he's getting the runaround here. And it all sounds very, very suspicious. Okay. Why are we one day shy of the end of the year and on the last day of trading, and brokers are hanging their hats on the shares or in the mail? You know, ACAT is used to transfer shares from broker to broker. DRS is used to transfer shares from broker to AST. Okay. So to sum up on Twitter, with regards to MMTLP, brokers don't want to open up cases that would be admitting guilt to selling false securities. Their brokerage license could be on the hook there. Brokers don't want to transfer something that they don't have listed as a share. Hashtag FINRA has the ability to lift the halt. They haven't done that yet. Okay, they haven't done that yet, and that's very suspicious. They could have gone to position close only, and they have not. Now we see a very interesting tweet from Syntax Queen of the Metaverse. It's really very enlightening. It says, if your broker refuses to open a case on your behalf, you have every right to call the DTCC, and they'll open up a case against your broker. The term is called stonewalling, because she came up with this tweet because earlier she tried to call up her broker, who was Vanguard Group, and was told corporate action wasn't available to open up her case, and wouldn't tell me when the shares came in. She has to be transferred, and they hung up on her. So she called up the DTCC, and she's opening up a case against Vanguard Group because they shouldn't be hanging up on her. They're her broker. They owe her shares. The DTC said they're getting many, many calls, and that what brokers are doing is wrong. It's called stonewalling. And so she's got the, she's got the, what's the word? She's got the definition of stonewalling there. Mm-hmm. She didn't buy these shares from Vanguard. These are original shares she got as a result of being a Torchlight shareholder. She got the Series A preferred shares as a result of being a Torchlight shareholder. These became tradable under the stock symbol MMTLP. And now she should be having NextBridge Hydrocarbon shares, which she doesn't have. So if those shares are fucked, she's saying everyone's fucked. because those are OG shares. Those are original shares. Okay. Getting back to the very first point about Schwab, TD Ameritrade and Schwab are the same company, and it's not surprising that, TD Ameritrade is just doing the same exact thing Schwab is. Apparently, at TD Ameritrade, they refused to open up a case with the DTCC because they can't open up cases on behalf of individual shareholders since they're already in contact with them. Basically, TD Ameritrade is also giving the runaround. Now, I have not talked about Fidelity, but I'll be talking about them later. Anyway, John Brda says, so Fidelity has been telling people that that they need to mail certificates, stock certificates. John Brda says, they don't need to mail certs. AST doesn't do that. Neither does a broker. If you want to get your shares back, if you want to get your shares in your name at AST, the broker needs to ACAT the shares to AST. That's it. You do an ACAT transfer. That's the way things work. Once it's arrived at AST will send you notifications of your account statement. Okay, that's what happens. And we see a gray market has he's responded. Hey, he got his shares. He's directly registered, right? And if you look at his actual letter that he got, he says, hey, he's got 100 shares directly registered. There you go. Now, I did not talk about Fidelity. Fidelity has something happened at Fidelity which was very interesting today. People got new numbers. People in Fidelity think they may have an expert hydrocarbon shares, and Paul T says this is very interesting. Fidelity may have just changed the number and description of these counterfeit MMTLP shares. It's a deception on their part to keep us content. Thanks, Iron Man Ape. Iron Man Ape said, hey, this is what was in my account this morning, and he lists these CUSIP numbers anyway. Bird Lady Roller Pigeon says, hey, that's my theory. If Fidelity got the certificates in the mail today, millions of them, how do you enter all of them in and allocate in a few hours when it takes 20 minutes just to answer the phone? How do you do that? She's got a point. I kind of agree with her. She's got a point there. 4,600 views and 133 likes. There you go. So my broker is Fidelity. I'll tell you what happened to me. I looked in my activities and orders tab in Fidelity in my account, and I saw this. So I saw NextBridge Hydrocarbons as having a positive number, and the trade date is today, the 29th. And I saw a negative number for Merger Metamaterials, PFD Metamaterials Contra, or whatever that was. But that is older placeholder CUSIP number. That's got a negative number that's the exact same as a positive number. And it is, they have different CUSIP numbers. They have, the old one is 591, blah, 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 blah. The new one is 786, 699, D491. So there are two different CUSIP numbers there. But the fact of the matter is, for all I know, they just did a CUSIP number change. I won't know for sure until I can ACAT the shares to AST. So I'll let you know tomorrow to see what happens about that. That's what John Brda says. If you can ACAT the shares, they're real. So we don't know. Maybe they're real. Maybe they're not. Hard to say. But this was not the original plan that I had to make a video this morning. All these developments happened in the morning, so I had to make a video about that. It is vital and it's important, and I think it sheds light on what's going on. So I have to be current. I last made a video that was basically about perspectives, right? How everyone looks at things with their own perspective. I look at things with the perspective of a long shareholder, because that's what I am. Shorts have their own perspective of people who've shorted stocks, right? Let's look at things from the perspective of the broker. And in my mind, there are two different types of brokers. There's brokers who are privately held companies like Fidelity, I believe, is private. Then there are public companies like Charles Schwab. Schwab is, I believe, a publicly held company. And in fact, that means you can buy shares of Charles Schwab on the New York Stock Exchange, right? I believe their shares were going for like $82.65. And this is what, the 1 month trading or so. It got, it went down to around mid-70s or something like that. Anyway, it came back up. But their shares trade on the New York Stock Exchange, just like any other shares of any other publicly available company. Not only do their shares trade because they're public, they need to file with the SEC. So they need to file on EDGAR. They need to file quarterly reports, just like all public companies. And wouldn't you know it, their last quarterly report is on September 30th, 2022, and it was filed on November 8th. Okay, and if we look at that, we can look inside this quarterly report, the Form 10Q. This is called the MD&A, the Management Discussion and Analysis. This is what the broker wants to talk about. This is what they like to talk about. This is what they think are the most important things to talk about. I'm interested in this section of the MD&A. And if we look at this section talks about revenues of $5.5 billion, net income of about $2 billion, and net income available to shareholders of about $1.9 billion. That's what they did in Q3 of 2022, or the quarter ended September 30th. Okay, why do I think that's important? It gives you an idea of how big Schwab is, right? How much money they're making in the last quarter. If we also look at them as a public company, we can look at their market cap, and that gives you an idea of how big they are as well, too. $154 billion market cap. So they're a $154 billion market cap. And they made revenue, and income. They made income of about $1.9 billion in the last quarter. So if they had a liability that was worth billions that just suddenly came into existence, didn't you think they might have to report that on their books? Being a publicly held company, wouldn't you think they would need to file a quarterly report, right? We know that the quarter is ending December 31st, 2022. In fact, the last day of trading of the quarter is tomorrow, December 30th. So the quarterly report for the quarter ending December 31, 2022, if that's the case, don't you think they would have to put something like, shares owed as a dividend but not yet received, if they have not received it, because that's a liability, something they owe. We know that even Citadel had to disclose that they owed $65 billion in assets owed but not yet purchased. Assets owed but not yet purchased. Okay, assets sold but not yet purchased. That's what Citadel had to disclose, to the tune of $65 billion. They disclosed that because if they did not disclose that, they might run into problems with compliance and they might be called under fraud investigations. They don't want to do that. That's why Citadel disclosed that info. So let's say that they do disclose that information, right? So let's say that there's now a liability on the books of the quarter about to end, that could about this big giant liability. Do you think that could negatively affect the stock price? I don't know. Having a sudden giant liability appear out of the blue, that might affect the stock price, don't you think? Okay. And who would know how big that liability is? Well, the broker would know for sure. Who else might know? I'm wondering. Don't you think that the short hedge funds who created that liability might know? Or the market maker short who created that liability might know? They might know. They might know that they could be forced to report something that could negatively affect their stock price. And wouldn't it be ironic if they knew that something like that was going to happen, that their stock price could be negatively affected? Wouldn't it be amazing if they shorted their own broker? Wouldn't it be amazing if a market maker shorted their own broker to make money off of their own broker? I wonder if they could. I don't know. It would be ironic. It would be the ultimate irony. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm not asking anyone to short any positions, because if you short a company, you invoke what's called infinite risk, right? I think that's the stupidest thing in the world. Why would you ever want to take on infinite risk? Why would you want to lose way more money than you could ever make by taking on infinite risk, right? I believe that the short hedge funds took on infinite risk with stock symbol. I believe the short hedge funds took on infinite risk with stock symbol MMTLP. Not only did they take on infinite risk, what's going on with the focus here? Not only did those short hedge funds take on infinite risk by shorting stock symbol MMTLP, they want to get out of their infinite risk by sweeping it under the rug, by hiding this information. I think that's ludicrous. Okay. I think that they will need to pay the piper soon. And because the broker is not going to take on the risk for the shorts, I think the broker is just going to pass the risk over to the shorts. The brokers don't want this on their books. If you're a broker, do you want this on your books by the end of the year? Do you want to disclose that you have a dividend that's owed that you have not yet received? Do you want that on your books? of unknown, incalculable amounts. It could be in the terms of billions. Who knows? Who knows? Right? All I know, again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is information intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. All I know is that brokers need to obtain expert hydrocarbon shares to deliver to longs, the shareholders of MMTLP, the people who once owned those shares as of the date of record and held through the date of distribution. Brokers need to deliver that. Okay. It is the 29th of December now. Where are those shares? For all I know, Fidelity may have given me the shares. I don't know. I have to find out if by directly, by going through the ACAT process, by seeing if I can put those shares into Expert Hydrocarbons. But I know a lot of other brokers did not. It looks like Schwab is giving people the runaround. Looks like Vanguard is giving people the runaround. There's a lot of brokers out there. They could be held on the hooks. Do you think shorts might want to short their own broker and make money off of their own broker? Who the hell knows? It's weird, but who knows? Who knows? Anyway, brokers need to either deliver the shares to the longs by either getting the shares from the transfer agent or buying the shares from Expert Hydrocarbons. Expert Hydrocarbons has up to 500 billion shares. They can buy them from Expert Hydrocarbons. The price may be high, but they'll get out of their infinite risk. Or they need to make a deal. And they need to make a deal with the people they owe the shares to, the people who are long, the long shareholders of MMTLP. They need to make a deal to get rid of their obligations. They could possibly even try to buy shares on the gray market through, of MMTLP. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. So they have a choice. They either go to AST, get the shares, go to the Expert Hydrocarbons, get additional shares from them, which results in dilution. So of course they'll have to charge you more for that, or they come to you and me because we are owed those Expert Hydrocarbon shares, even if we do not have them, and try to strike a deal. That's the only choice they have, or some combination of all of those, right? Some combination of all of those. Or maybe go to people who have directly registered their shares and try to buy those private shares from those people. Okay. I don't know what the answer is for brokers, but that's the position they're in. I would think if I were a broker, I would not want this on my books. Brokers, I think, are smarter than short hedge funds. They seem to know what's going on. Rumors are that the upper management of these brokerage firms know exactly what's going on, and they are scrambling every day to try to close this big liability that they have. How they will close it, I do not know. But I suspect they want to get it off their books before the end of the year. Year's ending soon. If it goes till next year, who knows? It's really hard to say what's going on. It's really hard to say. But I do know that I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. And it is December 29th, 2022. This is Tony with Market Moves. I'm saying goodbye. And this was about some more perspectives that I had about this whole situation between what used to be stock symbol MMTLP and what has become the private company, Expert Hydrocarbons. So with that, I'll be saying thank you and goodbye.